Hey guys, this is Jason Lee, and welcome back to Legacy Matters. And I am here for part 2 of my interview with Rusty Smith. Rusty is an EOS implementer, a networking partner and friend of mine, and a servant of business owners, helping them achieve their goals and get to where they can live a life of legacy. In our first episode, we talked about the EOS life, what that does, how does it change a business owner, how it changes their organization and equips them to live a better life of legacy. And so they're not operating a lifestyle business where they just show up to work to make money, but they're gaining independence, freedom, time, working with people they love, making a good amount of money. And you shared some examples. It's got to be one of the most rewarding things in the world to get to see these things
Absolutely.
transform.
Absolutely.
I can't imagine how beneficial that is. So we shared a little bit about that. And now what we're going to talk about in section 2 of our interview is something that I think is significant when it comes to legacy, and that is how does adopting this life translate to actually driving business value? Okay, and so Rusty, we do informal business valuations at my firm, and what that means is we step in for business owners. And you had mentioned in our previous interview, we don't ever tell a business owner or somebody that their baby's ugly.
Right.
Well, they're actually paying for us to tell them their baby's ugly, right? And the point being is, if you are going to go out and try to put that baby in a pageant, you want to at least know in advance where you got to get them buttoned up. And so part of the ugly baby identification process is identifying, a lot of times when I'm doing a business valuation, that the business owner's so entrenched in it. If someone was to buy it and they were no longer going to be there, it probably wouldn't have as much value. And that's a problem. And so I think a lot of times business owners don't see that. And then then when it's time to step away, and more often than not, they're not prepared for that. Usually stepping away is more times than not, it's not on their terms. It's, I got to go. My wife's got cancer. Something's happened and I don't want to do this anymore.
Right.
I'm tired. I'm weathered, whatever that might be, burned out, right? Because they have been doing it the whole time, which is a big call out. So, and then when it's time to go, they work their whole life. And then sadly, a third party comes in and tells them, hey, you got an ugly baby. I'll give you a fraction of what you might have thought it was worth. So how do we get them out? Well, first of all, let's talk about this. How impactful, and you've had this experience, you've helped some guys transition. How impactful is it to the value of a company by literally getting the business owner out of it? What does that mean to the value of that business?
So again, I hate to keep using the word huge, but it is huge. Right?
Okay. Yeah.
A business, as you know, if it requires the owner to be there and make every decision and everything goes through that one person, that business is rarely sellable. Right. Because it depends on that one person. And so one of the things that we do with EOS is that we have a model, and we try to help our clients improve in 6 key areas.
Okay.
Vision, making sure everybody in the organization knows where the company's headed, what you're trying to accomplish, how you're going to get there.
Okay.
Right. And so getting everybody focused on the same objective, right, makes the company much more efficient, which increases value.
Okay.
Right. People, getting all the right people in the right seat. The way you structure the company, making sure that everybody is crystal clear on what they're accountable for, and making sure that there's no gaps and there's no overlaps in terms of the accountabilities within the company, again, makes the company more valuable because it starts to run a little more smoothly. Data, right? A lot of entrepreneurs run their company by gut feel or idea of the week. We want to say, what are the metrics in the company that are going to increase? And so we implement a scorecard, and we start running the company based on numbers as opposed to gut feel.
Love it.
Process. We talk about the processes in the company. So if you can get your processes defined, done the same way every time, it's easier to onboard people. You make fewer mistakes. Your efficiency goes up, and it just makes the company more fun to run. Issues, making sure that you have a process in place to identify issues and solve those issues as they come up. And then the 6th component we call traction. And that is making sure that the communications are happening, the accountabilities are happening, the discipline is built into the business, where you're meeting on a regular basis, and those meetings are extremely effective.
Yeah, I have a great example of a client of ours who we engaged with that we just helped exit last year. And last fall, or what was it? I guess early spring early spring. Took him to play golf, kind of celebration. Took him and some friends. We went and played some golf and had some steaks. And he said, you guys saved me all the money on the taxes. You guys helped me with this legacy stuff for my kids and the estate stuff and giving. And so we, all the stuff that came with the sale, which is life changing, right? That's legacy stuff. But we started with them 5 years ago when I was just a pup at the company. So he was introduced to an EOS partner from my boss, because I didn't have any connections at the time. I was brand new. I just brought this client to the firm. And he said, but all the stuff you did for me, the most significant thing that you did was get us involved with that EOS stuff.
Oh, really? That's good to hear.
He goes, because what we got for the sale of our business couldn't have happened if that stuff wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it sounds like what you just kind of described, because at the time when we came in and did the valuation, a lot of the stuff you said were missing. Documented policy, procedure, right people in the right seats, right? Identifying who's that.
Right structure.
Vision, right? Vision. I mean, when you think about it, if I grew up and these guys were in construction, I laid concrete my whole life, and I'm really good at it. And then all of a sudden, next thing you know, I got a truck, and then next thing you know, I got 10 trucks.
Right.
And I'm making money. And construction is not really a sexy, necessarily it's not the kind of business that is as trendy as some guy, building a cool startup, whatever tech industry.
But it can be very lucrative. So.
Very much so, right? But maybe it doesn't scream culture.
Right.
I got to do all the trendy stuff that you see, in Forbes and stuff. These guys were just like, dude, we're gonna go pound concrete all day, make some money, get to work.
Well,
but then what ends up happening is they wake up one day and go, wait, this isn't working. And if I'm ever going to get out of this thing, I got to figure something else out. And then that's where you guys kind of step in. So do you have any examples of where you came in and saw a company that didn't have this? Maybe they weren't positioned for exit, and then you were able to step in and make some changes, and then how those changes really added to the value?
Yeah, a couple of thoughts there, right? Culture is important for every industry, and there's a lot of companies construction companies that run EOS. That's a great example.
Absolutely.
Right? And construction uses a lot of subcontractors, right? But the people out on the job site, they're representing your company,
right?
And so if they don't have the same values that you have, and aren't following the processes that you want them to follow, right? You're going to have customer dissatisfaction issues, right. And so even with where you're using construction subcontractors, you still want to have the same values, because they're representing your company and they're creating the image that you have, right? And also efficiency, right? You want them to be efficient, right? And so I would say that even if you have a company where you have blue collar workers, you want all of them to fit your culture. You want all of them to have the same values you have. You want all of them to know what it is you're trying to achieve. If you have I do have a construction client who they build custom homes, luxury homes, and they if they have an employee out there who isn't focused on quality, cutting corners, right, their reputation is going to go down the tubes. And so they hire subcontractors as well as employees based on the values.
Now let me ask you this: how do you go about? Because I'm sure, for example, casting vision and doing a lot of these things, they might not necessarily even be in that business owner's skill set, right?
Absolutely.
So a lot of times they're even in the wrong, for lack of a better term, they're perhaps in the wrong seat, because they may be they might just be
in the wrong seat.
Yeah, they're often in the wrong seat, right? So how do you go about getting a business owner to see that they're in the wrong seat right now? Like how do you that's got to be some pride tearing down and stripping to get them to go, hey,
sometimes.
So what is that like?
Sometimes, but usually when they express an interest in EOS, they recognize that the business isn't running the way that they want it to run.
Okay, got it.
And so they're already a little bit open-minded in terms of
Okay.
something needs to change, right? And one of the things that we say is that our ideal clients are more afraid of the status quo than they are of change.
Okay,
Right.
great. Love that.
And so they come to us because they recognize they need to change. And so that business owner usually is overworked, right? And so we have two different roles that an owner can take. We call them visionary and integrator. And sometimes you have a visionary stuck in an integrator role. So you have someone who's big thinking, relationship oriented, trying to manage day-to-day stuff, right? And sometimes you have a business owner who is a great integrator who doesn't have a visionary, right?
Okay, there
And
you go.
so, so the perfect solution is to have both a great visionary and a great integrator, right? But if they don't have an integrator, we need to find one for them, right? Or we need to identify one, develop one,
Right.
If they don't have a visionary, then we use the team as the visionary.
Interesting.
We get the leadership team thinking about where the company's headed and what that looks like, and so on and so forth. And
that's
so,
kind of where your role really is applied, because
Mhm.
you have to become that facilitator to help facilitate those
Absolutely.
discussions.
Yep.
So it makes sense to me that you can go out and find a fractional integrator or integrator, somebody who can step in an operational role. I hate to say it like this. They're not on trees, but there's more integrator minded folks
they're
out
out
there
there,
than
and,
there's
you know-
necessarily visionaries. But it's hard for me to imagine how do you close the gap when a business owner realizes I'm really not a great visionary, I'm just a great doer, and now I got to figure out how to get vision built into the company.
I had a client a while back who was a furniture builder, and we were talking. He's like, all these consultants I've had in here told me, oh, you need to act more like a CEO. You need to, whatever. And he's like, I just want to be out in the shop making furniture, right? That's what my passion is out in the shop making furniture, right? And I said, okay, great. Then we need to structure your organization so that you can spend your time doing what you love. Back to the
Love
EOS
it.
life,
Yeah,
right?
love it.
And so
That's a
so he
great
hired
mindset.
and the title, is variable. Some people call him president, some people call him COO, some people call him general manager, whatever. But that's that integrator role, the person that's running the nuts and bolts day to day of the business,
Yeah.
right? And so if that owner wants to be in the shop building furniture, let's put them in the shop building furniture, right?
Okay.
Because that's their passion.
Then you just work around that by creating vision through the entire team,
Yep.
which is a cool concept. It's
Yep.
a cool. I mean, it's a neat concept
Mm-hmm.
to reverse engineer. Okay, let's find the right seat for you first,
Right.
and then let's build the organization around it, as opposed to thinking that you have to step into this CEO visionary chair where really maybe that's just not your bag. To your point, maybe I like to just be out there,
Yep.
getting after it because I love the craft in
Right.
and of itself.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, that's fantastic. So this was very insightful. I know our next segment is centered around the next step in this phase, right? Which is, how do you identify and go about figuring out, are you in the right seat, and then do I have the right people in the right seat? And
Okay.
then once I figure out those seats, how do we figure out how to get them equipped while they're in those seats, so you could step away and then eventually exit your business with some value.
Okay.
So thanks for your time.
Great. Look forward to
Appreciate
it.
it.